Well, happy March and welcome everybody to the monthly market report, where I go over the latest activity in the Hamilton residential real estate market. My name is Mike McCarthy from Remax Realty, and let's get going. So, February, we saw the median sale price end at 200. 750,000, up 9.1% since January 1st. So, a super strong start to the year from a price perspective. And the highest median sale price for a month that we've seen since June of 2022. So beating each of the last 8 or 9 months, whatever that number is. Definitely, obviously we're down from last year. February of last year was the high water mark at 958,000. So we're down a little over 20% from there. But that's kind of been a pretty constant theme from a year-over-year basis. From longer term perspectives, 2 years we're up 4.7%, 5 years we're up 58%. So other than purchasing during that hyper spike of late 21, early 22, you're sitting fairly comfortable as a homeowner in the market. Last month, we saw the cumulative days on market really creeping up, going up to 46, and just kind of wondering where that was headed. That came back down, so we started seeing houses moving way more quickly in February than we'd seen for quite a while. The typical sale ended at 22 days on market. We haven't been in that range since June and July of, again, 2022. So the months of inventory on the market, this is all combining to make it an even, a much tighter market than we've seen over the last few months. We ended the month at 2.2 months worth of inventory on the market. And again, we haven't been at that level since earlier in 2022, around the May-June mark. So things are tightening, and that usually leads to higher prices. So that all makes sense. Now, we're not seeing lots of activity. So people are still quite tentative, from a typical perspective. More people are on the sidelines than are out in the market actively, but it's gaining strength relatively, and I'll get into that. So we only saw 472 transactions in February. Again, the lowest number for the month of February over the last 10 Februarys. We've seen that theme over the last number of months in a row, down 40% from last number of transactions last year. But relative to a typical February, we saw, there were 75% of the typical amount of transactions in an average February, which is obviously lower than normal, but higher than what we'd seen at, the latter part of 2022, where we saw those, monthly numbers relative to a typical month in the 60 to 65% range. So January, it was 80% of a typical January. February, 75% of a typical February. So we are seeing more people getting back into the market looking to make purchases. Okay, the number of new listings are still also remaining fairly low from a typical perspective. 739 new properties came on the market in February, down 30%. From the February 2022. It's the lowest we've seen in 10 years, but not abnormal. Like, there are a lot of months in the last 10 years that were around this mark. So, February isn't a high number of it isn't a month where we see a lot of new listings come to market. It's actually, I think, definitely one of the lowest, like one of the third or fourth lowest of the year typically. But nevertheless, what this combines with the amount of sales to new listings, the ratio is at 64%, which we haven't seen since February of last year. So the highest sales to new listing ratio we've seen in a year. And if you recall, the higher the ratio is, the stronger of a seller's market is. And at 64%, we're definitely in a seller's market and getting stronger over the last couple of months. Okay, and then what effect is this having on inventory? We're staying pretty steady and at about 1,000 units. I mean, it's way more than double that we had last year. Of course, that really tight inventory is much created greatly to the spike in prices. But it's a pretty normal amount, and we've seen that kind of for the last couple of months, having a normal amount of inventory. So, if you've been having discussions or hearing rumors about doom and gloom, I've been saying this for the last few reports. I don't think it's happening. David here from Schitt's Creek, he doesn't believe it either. So is the market softening? Simply not true. The evidence does not support that. If anything, 9.1% over the course of 9 weeks, essentially, that's not a softening market. Is there excess supply? Definitely not. I mean, I've heard that default rates are starting to rise a little bit, and that'll hash out over the next 6 months or so, but they're not spiking crazily. So don't expect that supply issue. I wouldn't expect the amount of supply to be abnormally high at any point in the future. And it is this lack of supply that is very much driving, when we have real strong demand, spikes in the prices, and even when no one else has strong demand, it's staying relatively strong. So don't believe the hype. We're not crashing unless there's some crazy external event that occurs, which could always happen. But from what I can tell, it doesn't look to me like there's any reason to believe that that's on the horizon. So for buyers that are thinking that they're waiting out a market where that prices are going to come down, I don't know. I don't see that happening for you. If that is your strategy, good luck to you. But people thought that 2 months ago, and now they're 10% behind where they were 2 months ago. So buy when it's the right time for you to buy. Anyways, we will see you in about a month or so. Enjoy the month of March. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you watching. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up directly, email, text, or phone, and I'll be happy to chat with you. All right. Take care, and we'll see you in a month.